Welcome, data people. We are Zuma. My name is Matt, and this is Data for Good. This podcast is brought to you by Zuma. Zuma is a dedicated recruitment company for senior data, insights, and analytics professionals, connecting you with Berlin's most influential companies. The Data for Good podcast is for the world of data analytics and engineering. It gives you access to the thoughts and opinions of Berlin's most successful data people. Today, we are joined by Valentine, Associate Analytics Manager at GetYourGuide. We're looking forward to this episode. It's going to be a good one. Valentine will inform us about his journey in analytics, the difference between data science and data analytics, in particular product analytics, and his experience of leading an analytics guild. Valentine, welcome. First of all, happy birthday for yesterday. How are you?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me today. I am very good. I'm very happy to talk about analytics with you.
Fantastic. The summer has slowly coming to the end. So how is the rest of the year shaping up for you and the team?
Pretty good. I think this summer is like wrapping up like pretty fast. It's already winter in Berlin. But yeah, now it's going great. And GetYourGuide is had like an amazing summer, and we're looking for like even better winter.
Fantastic to hear it. So yeah, we're here to talk about your career, and you're going to give us some insights about analytics. Now, looking at the start of your career, product analytics wasn't involved from right at the start. So what was the turning moment that made you follow a career in data and analytics?
That's a good question, because it took a while, honestly. I started by studying software engineer. I studied engineering and computer science in France. I was supposed to become a software engineer and decided that I was not so much into coding at that time. So I took a bit of a turn and started as a project manager. So I did a few years project managing, very close to software engineering. So it was skills that I could continue to use, but more on the functional side. And then I would say it's mainly a matter of people that I met and who gave me a chance and motivated me. And I moved from product management to being a business analyst, data analyst, and data scientist later.
Okay. So along that journey, what would you say the key indicators were that you'd made the right decision to go into data?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I would always go with fun. For me, it's a matter of like, do you like what you do? Are you happy to work every day? And if that's the case, then it might be a good indication that you're in the right place. I think if you're good at your job and you enjoy it, then there's not much question to be asked. So yeah, for me, it always was like that. I definitely did not plan at the beginning of my career to work in product analytics or any other area like that. I took it as it goes, discover, talk with like the managers that I had along the way, where I could grow and discover new fields, and in the end, find something that I really love.
Nice. I don't think probably product analytics didn't exist probably maybe 10 years ago or so.
I don't know. I'm not that old. I mean, probably it did not exist exactly in the same way, for sure. When I started to work, analytics and data science was not as hot as it is now. So that also explain like the path that I had. But I think it's when we look at everybody who work in data science and analytics, not a lot have a very straightforward path of starting in data science and doing that life. I think and that's what I really like about it, is that you can enter the data science and analytics world for many, many doors. And most of the colleagues I have did very, very different things before. What makes everybody working in this field quite interesting.
You mentioned fun. Thinking back, what was the first project or task you were working on that made you realize that, yeah, this is fun, this is for me?
Yeah. One of the first projects I worked on that was really fun because it really had an impact was understanding the incremental revenue we would get from promotion. So that was in my previous company. So it's a hotel group in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I was tasked with understanding we were running promotions at specific moments in times during the year. How much incremental revenue do we get? Is it relevant to do, and how should we adapt that? And I worked on that project for a few weeks. And what was really fun and great was to see the relationship I could get with the stakeholders and seeing them like being like extremely, like genuinely happy and eager to learn more and helping them do their job like in a better way. And that was an amazing thing. So that's when I knew that, yeah, I really like that.
Amazing. Now, a number of people who want to get into data science feel that they may be held back because they haven't got the master's and the PhD, whereas you're a great example of someone who got real life experience to become a data scientist. So what would you say to someone who's considering coming from a technical background like a software developer to get into data science?
Yeah, so I would say two things. The first one is people. Get around people who are willing to give you a chance. There are many, like you can really find many people that are willing to take somebody that is not yet an expert, but is willing to grow, that has the skills that could be useful in a specific setups. I mean, maybe we'll talk about it later, but there are very different aspects in data analysis, in data science. And having some software engineering skills can be really interesting in some projects. So finding the right person that is going to give you the chance. So that would be, for me, the first aspect. Second one is being curious and motivated. We're lucky at the moment to have a lot of resources online that are most of the time completely free. So if you're motivated to just read a lot, look into some projects that somebody presented on a meetup, on a podcast, or on an article, read about that, try it yourself. We can all run on our computer a few queries, trying to learn Python, for example, and get there. Can give like at least a kickstart of how to do the job, plus past experience and motivation is often a good mix to get there.
Nice. Which would you put first? Community, so maybe to attending a data science meetup in Berlin, or doing a bit of reading and learning first?
Definitely community. We'll definitely talk about that later when we talk about the guild, but community, I would always put that first. There is a very, very strong community in data science. It's a world of passionate people. It's very new, so there are still a lot of things to discover, to understand. And I think people just really like sharing. Like everybody I've met in the analytics world is always keen to make a presentation, share the project that I've done. And it's not so much this, I would say, defense on like not sharing because everything is a secret. Most of what is done is actually quite open and actually quite also eager to explain what they're doing. Also because of the difficulty of the labor market, and we need to attract talent, and that often goes by sharing the cool stuff that we work on. So yeah, community, hearing about like what people want to share and discuss with them, and that's often linked to
Nice. We have people listening from different operations within a business, so software development's an obvious one. What other departments within a company would lend quite well to be a start point for a scientist or analyst within data?
I would say definitely product manager, because they have this overview of the business needs. They understand well, because that's mainly their job, to understand like what needs to be investigated. They really have like, this very strong business sense. That's one of the most important parts of being a good data analyst and data scientist, is being able to take some data, transform it, running some models, but making sense out of it and making sure it has an impact and that it's useful for your stakeholder. So anybody who had like a lot of interactions with stakeholders, has a bit of technical knowledge, can be a good candidate to do that.
Amazing. Now, we've used the terms quite interchangeably. We've mentioned them a lot: data analyst and data scientist. They are very, very different roles and have different responsibilities. You've evolved more recently from data science into product analytics. So what would you say the main differences are?
I really like that question because I don't think I have the answer, and I don't think anybody has a very clear answer on that. There are some differences, of course, but it also depends on like the company, the maturity of the company, the way we want to frame the role. I've been a data scientist in some company, then senior data analyst, and then back to data science. It really depends where we put the emphasis. So I would always go with one of the main difference is that data science is more into building machine learning models that are more likely to be in production, run every day, continue to learn, and be really facing the customer in the case of GetYourGuide. While data analysts might use the same techniques, but for a different use. It's more ad hoc analysis, one-shot project where you want to understand the relationship between two metrics or interactions, and for that you're going to use a statistical model, build a presentation, documentation, and creating insights. So data science is often around building models that get into production, and data analysis more around insight generations. That I would say that's one of the main differences.
And the kind of soft skills of an analyst versus a scientist. How would you differ those?
I would say that for data analysts, what is often, it's a skill that is important for both, but communication and being able to communicate to a business stakeholder what you have found, writing a story, making your transforming data into an interesting story that can have an impact is one of the skills that might differ. While in data science, we will more require you to be able to maybe more resilience, because you'll have to work long time on a model, optimize, find out the exact things that is not working at that moment, trying to pilot a bit your model. So it's around communication. I think there is a bit of a difference. I always say that it's important for any person working in analytics, so data scientist or data analyst, to be good in communication, because ultimately our role is to transform data and make sense of it. And for that, you need to have a good idea of what you want to say and how to say it.
Yeah, definitely. So it sounds like data scientists have more of a roadmap, an ongoing project that they're working on, and data analysts are more ad hoc, like you said. How do you overcome the challenge of building out a roadmap for the analysts if it is such ad hoc work?
So for the analyst, I split it into two parts. There is the ongoing support that we'll have with our stakeholder. In product analytics, we have analysts that report to a mission team that takes care of one part of the website, and they worked in roadmap, so we support that roadmap. So that I would say is around 60% of the work. And then the 40% are either building out our capabilities, making sure we have the right tools, the right model, we have the right way to access the data, or can we be faster, smarter in doing analysis. And so we build projects on that part, and that can take longer than a quarter, for example. So we need a roadmap for that. And there is also everything around supporting the long-term vision of the company. And for that, we'll have more behavioral analysis, understanding what our customer visitors are doing on our websites, where are the friction points, so we can help then our mission team frame a long-term strategy. So yeah, it is possible to have a roadmap. Just it will depend on the moment.
As is in a lot of cases in life, is important to say no. So how does that impact having these ad hoc requests as an analytics manager? When is the right time to say no to requests and say, yeah, we can do that?
That is, honestly, if you have the answer to that question, I would be very happy. It's really one of the biggest challenge, from a part because most of the people in analytics are passionate about the job. And when you're embedded in mission team or you work with your stakeholder, you have a clear vision of what they need. They come to you, they ask you questions. And first reason it's difficult to say no is, well, because you want to get to the bottom of the truth. And you're like, I want to get that answer. I want to be able to help you get there. As you say, it's not always possible. And at some point we have a finite amount of time and amount of work that we can produce. And we have to say no. So we work a lot in prioritization and again, communication, making sure that we are clear on what we're working, what is the most important piece of work, and how we can sequence everything. We try to increase visibility on all the tasks that we have at hand, what we're working right now, what we put on hold, what we keep in the backlog, and have a very direct communication between our stakeholder and our team to make sure that everything is clear. One important part of saying no is learning how to not always push back your work. What I've seen is that we often say no, but I will do it later. And so you just increase your backlog and you don't really say no, you just end up pushing it back. And at the end of the quarter, you still have a huge amount of tasks that you need to deliver because you were not able to prioritize. So what we're trying to do is to not always push back, but say, okay, if I work on that part, what in the prioritization we did in the last weeks, month, what should we remove? Not pushing back, not putting it at the end of the backlog. Really, we get something in, we get something out. It's not easy to do, but it helps a lot. And the second part is around waiting a bit. I always estimate at around 50% of the tasks that are asked. If you wait 1 day or two, then something that was extremely urgent or extremely important maybe is not so much anymore.
Yeah.
And taking the time is not because it was irrelevant, but maybe it was not that urgent, and then we can treat it differently. Or it also helps us take the time to refine, understand exactly what is the need, and not jump directly into the request as it was, but to understand the real need behind the request.
So a little bit of patience goes a long way sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who would you say is better at saying no to requests, the data science team or the data analytics team?
Tough question.
Put you on the spot there.
I would say the data science team, since I work more on roadmap with clear or at least clearer planning and exactly what they want to deliver and how long it's expected to take. If you add something to the roadmap, then by default you have to take something out. So I think it's easier for them to do it like that.
Nice. And you've been on both sides. What skills and experience of being a data scientist have you brought with you to your current role and has proved invaluable?
I've definitely brought some of the statistical knowledge that I built by being a data scientist to I would say I worked a lot on building model, predictive model, and that's something that I was able to bring in my previous role as a senior data analyst in marketing, where it's really an area where we cannot run much experimentation in marketing. We don't have control in our company on who see or who doesn't see our ads.
Yeah.
We also run marketing offline, and well, we cannot turn off the print in the street. So it's a lot around modelization, simulation, trying to predict what would have happened with the marketing. And that was definitely a place where it was super interesting to have a bit of more statistical knowledge on how to build this model and work with some stakeholders that were stronger in marketing and mix it both.
Nice. It's great to hear someone speak about the two sides, being experienced on both and helping people understand the difference that is there. We mentioned it a little bit earlier on, community, and it's something that you're hugely passionate about. You're a leader of analytics in the guild at GetYourGuide. So how valuable is it? What are the positive benefits of running a guild within a company?
Yeah, so maybe I can start by explaining a bit what is a guild. I think in software and engineering, it might be very known because it comes more from engineering side, and it was quite new to have it in analytics. So a guild is a self-managed entity of people working inside the companies that are passionate about a topic mostly because they work on it, but also maybe because they are impacted by it, or they have ideas, or it's mainly their passion. It's self-organized body, which is going to define the best practice, what should be the future, and so on. And so we launched that 2 years ago in analytics, where every analyst is welcome to join, bring his problematic, bring his idea, and trying to find solution and frame projects on how can we improve our department, our way to operate, and building up stronger capabilities. So the idea is really to take the people who actually do the job and for them to have the best idea on what they need to be more performing, to which tool do they need to operate at their best. And the guild has a time allocated, so basically they propose projects, and 20% of the time of every employee that's going to work on this project can be 10%, can be 5%, depending on the requirement we have at this moment on the stakeholders project, can be allocated to work on this improvement project.
Amazing. It sounds like a very beneficial program. Is there any reasons why you wouldn't run a guild in your own company? Is there any trade-offs?
I would recommend every company to have one with the right setup. I think it can work only if there is really trust between the managers and between the analysts. Trust that they will find out what is best for them, and times that they decide to allocate to it is to the best use of this time. If you have that trust, then it can work. If it's, I believe that if it's too much into control or too much a top-down approach, then we don't get the best benefit of the community. Then it becomes more of a strategy and roadmap, like it's usually done, which works very well. In setup, it's more giving the room, giving the space to be able to think and be motivated to try new things, to be bold. And you can only have that if you have trust.
Because a lot of maybe CEOs are thinking 20%, that's 1 day a month. That's a lot of time to be putting aside to this. But from what you're saying, that trust is reciprocated back into the company, and it can really add a lot of value to projects, improving systems, and sounds like it gives everyone a bit of a voice.
Yeah, it gives everybody a bit of a voice, and I think the other side is that it holds everybody accountable. I mentioned trust before, and this trust has to work both in both sides. As a guild member, so maybe you work 20 or 10% of your time on a project for a quarter, you also have to be accountable for making sure that it's useful, that it has an impact, and that you don't just do it because you like it, but it has actually a value. And then you're expected to show the value, to prove it, and to report on it. So it is trust that you will find out, like that you're able to decide what is the best, and to show that it works. It's also actually quite important to focus on the impact, because in the end, that's what keeps the lights on. But it's also what motivates others to join the guild and to invest some of their time to deliver projects that brings value, that are valued by everybody. And so for me, that's the most important part.
And how often are the meetups to analyze progress?
So the guild is meeting every 2 weeks for 1 hour. Everybody is welcome to join or to not join. It depends. Not everybody is always joining. There are obviously periods where you deep down into a project. You have to deliver an analysis, and you're like, I just cannot allocate time right now to stuff. So we try to meet every 2 weeks to always have a space where we can discuss progress and new ideas. And then depending on the project, some members that might be working together on a project can meet whenever they want and whenever they feel they need.
Nice. Well, it's great to hear the amount of trust that is involved and given to people to buy into what the company is trying to achieve, and being given the tools and the environment to do so. It's really good to hear. Time has flown. What a great conversation. And so we're going to wrap it up with one final question. I think will be valuable to a lot of people. You moved from an IC into a managerial position. What lessons did you learn from that transition that you would have shared with your former self going through that?
That it is definitely a transition. I work with the same people. I work in the same big department, but the role is really different. It honestly, one thing I would, I was told that before starting, and you hear it from the part, but once you're actually doing it, you really realize it. It is less fun. You lose a bit of the fun of working with the data, querying, digging into it, finding insights, crafting a story, and that is something that you put aside. Being for an analyst, a data scientist, a software engineer, I think we all suffer from the same. You lose a bit of the fun over there. But there are also other great parts, as in you can have a bigger impact. You can help your team, so multiple people trying to get somewhere, and you see them grow, deliver, and you see your recommendation, direction having an impact, and that is extremely nice. So very different. You don't do all the fun parts that you had before, and you get to work on really new skills. So yeah, the recommendation I would give always is take the time to do some coaching before discussion with manager. I really recommend going that way. I absolutely love it. But it is a big change, and I think it's important to understand what is going to change, which parts are going to be different, to be sure that it is really what you want. Especially now that most of the tech companies have two very clear paths, or like you can become a manager, or you can become a senior, a staff IC, individual contributor, and we don't have this old style of the growth can only come from being a manager. So I would recommend to discuss with people that are doing the job at the moment to get a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. I think that trade-off is what makes really good managers, when they realize that they give up a little bit of ownership of tasks, but what they get out of that is the impact and the impact they can make on many more people as well. Well, you've taught us a lot today, and we could have spoken for a lot longer, but I think these topics lead quite nicely into a future podcast. We would love to have you on the future, but that's all we have time for today. So thank you very much for your time and your rich insights, Valentine.
Thank you very much for inviting me and for the discussion. Very interesting to talk about all this stuff.
No, thank you. It's been an education for us all. To the listeners, as always, drop your questions and feedback to us. We'll pick out some to be answered on future pods. Don't forget to like and share so we can get this to reach as many people as possible. But from me and Valentine, ciao for now.
Ciao.